Don't let the honeymoon phase of the very beautiful 907X CFV 100C cause you a big financial mistake in the weeks to come. As you see in my hands, the newly announced 100 megapixel version of the 907X. This is an upgrade, of course, from the 50 megapixel version that was released a few years back, and there have been some improvements internally. Now, we're not gonna go 5 minutes into it like other videos because you've already watched those videos. Essentially, it is 90% of the X2D, which means 100 megapixel medium format sensor, 16-bit color, Hasselblad Natural Color Solutions Color Science, which is in all their cameras, by the way. You have no IBIS in this one, unlike the X2D. You have a CF Express Type B card slot, but carried over from the X2D, arguably one of my favorite features, is a 1 terabyte internal SSD. So you really don't need any sort of external card to take photos with this. It'll give you up to 4,700 images in RAW on a 1 terabyte SSD, which is inside of this thing. It's a modular system like the previous version, so you can take that off, put onto your V-Series Hasselblad film camera, take advantage of those vintage lenses and kind of bring you back to, that feel of yesteryear, but those lenses weren't designed to take advantage of 100 megapixels, so the images won't be as sharp as these newly announced V-Series lenses from Hasselblad, 38, 55, 90, 28 respectively. You do have an external grip to it, as you probably have seen many times, and we're going to talk about that because that is a big caveat to all this. Now, this camera has a big honeymoon phase attached to it. And what do I mean by that? It is so beautiful and it is so unique that you see this and you want to buy it immediately, if you have the funds to buy it, of course. The X2D looks like a standard camera. It's beautiful, it's nice, but oh my God, the 907X, mwah. Just think to yourself, I want to take photos like the old photographers of yesteryear. I want to be like Vivian Maier. Obviously, she used a Rolleiflex, but still, waist level viewfinder, walk around the streets of New York or whatever town you live in, maybe in Europe or in Asia, and you want to just capture waist level images, right? Because it does give you an interesting perspective to the world when you capture images that way versus putting a camera to your eye. So I understand that. And now with these newly announced V-Series lenses that are smaller, more compact, fantastic optics, it does make this camera system a lot easier to use than the previous version, which you only could use the 45p, which is their pancake lens. Everything outside of that was very big and very cumbersome. The autofocusing is faster on this. You've got phase detect autofocusing, face detection now. There's so many attributes to this camera that make it more refined inside and also outside as well. I feel like the build is a little bit better than the previous version, ever so slightly. It is a gorgeous camera. But we don't just have a camera for 2 weeks, do we? Some people do. But most of us buy a camera and we keep it for a number of years. And that's where I want to give you guys a heads up on this from a practicality standpoint, because I have used this and I've used the previous version for a number of weeks. And I've also used all the other X cameras from Hasselblad. So I have a good foundation to talk to you guys from this point. While you have an external grip that you can put onto it, this grip looks fantastic and it looks beautiful attached to the camera system, but it doesn't make much sense ergonomically. I mean, it does add some other function buttons that aren't on this camera. So that does help you in some ways, like exposure lock if you want to, lock in your exposure, things like that you can do with this grip versus not having it here on the body. But let's take a look at this grip for a second here. Most grips have this sort of design element where you have a little wider at the top, more maybe slanted, then it goes inward a bit for your finger, then it goes outwards to the base of your hand, so you have better stability when you grab a camera system. Or you could be like the Leica SL2S, where it's just straight, but it has a nice rubber grip inside of it, so you can grab your fingers onto it and it feels really good. This grip is sort of inverted in a really weird way. But when you use this grip, if you want to use it more like a traditional camera, you're going to find out that it's not that comfortable to use. The shutter release button is right here on the top, but most shutter releases are on an angle or have a slant downwards. Why is that? Is because our hand will naturally want to grab like this, like a gun, and you will want to put your finger here for the shutter release, but the dial is here. So you're going to have to put your finger up here, which means if you want to tilt up or if you want to tilt down to take a photo, or if you want to go on a different angle, it can be a little bit stressful on your wrist, depending. Now, I'm not saying everybody's going to feel this, but this is something I've experienced and other people that I know who have this grip has experienced the same thing. So I kind of feel like if they would have reversed it, this joystick is here, and that's the shutter release. That would have made a little bit more sense, and then maybe you could have the joystick in the back. It does make using this camera daily a little bit more challenging. Now, let's talk about the optical viewfinder that comes with this as well. I don't have the new one with me, but it covers the 38, the 55, I believe, focal lengths, and 28, if I'm not mistaken. Here's the thing with an optical viewfinder. It's great for framing, but you still need to focus. And you have to go look back at the screen to make sure that your subject is in focus. Now, Hasselblad has improved the autofocus with phase detect and now with face detection. However, it's not like the A9 III I'm filming on where it's just gonna stick on my eye and you know that subject is in focus, right? You gotta double check. And with that, causes you to really not use the optical viewfinder except for decoration. It's nice, but it's not going to be the solution. And why I say this is this, because it's gorgeous, it's great, it's functional, it will do the job of taking photos, which is essentially what we want any camera to do. But if you're gonna be using it daily, and you are the type of photographer that is used to using a more traditional SLR type of camera system, or a rangefinder for that matter, and you like an EVF or OVF because if you're in bright daylight, you want to be able to see, because this display is hard to see in bright daylight. It kind of looks like everything's underexposed even when it's not. It's just the way the display is made. You're gonna find yourself a little bit perplexed and a little challenged over the next few weeks. And this is a very expensive investment to get into. It's not like a $3,000, $4,000 camera, which is still expensive. You know, we're talking $8,000 plus. Get the accessories and everything else. Lenses, you're in there for a good 12, 13, 15 grand. You know what I mean? This is an investment. And yes, Hasselblad has done some amazing marketing. Even the original video they did for the 50C back in the day with the guy driving around in his classic car, taking the camera off his bookshelf or whatever have you, and taking it with him on his journeys. It brings you back to an era. I get it. I get it. But sometimes we need to take ourselves out of this visual world of maybe this is how we're gonna use the camera to actually how we will use the camera. I would say that if you are a person that likes an EVF, you like a more traditional body, and yes, you maybe want something different, and you only have budget for one camera, go for the X2D. If you are a person who is a collector and you're like, look, I have money I can spend, it doesn't bother me so much, I want something a little bit unique and different, then go for the 907X. I'm not knocking this camera in any way. I'm just coming from a more practical standpoint on this, is that not everybody has $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 to spend on a camera system, and some people save up for years to get something like this. Just think twice about how you use a camera, how you're gonna maximize this system, and then make that decision for your credit card bill, for your family, for yourself, and for your hobby or for your art. All right, guys, if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, more content on the way. Thanks again for the support, and I'll chat to you soon.